All right, folks, welcome back. Crisis Report, February 10th, 2026, or at least the 11th now. Sorry it's a late one. This will not be long, but we've had a busy day. So strap in, and here we go. We are brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals, and there are links in the description if you'd like to hear more about all that. So we hope you will, and if not, all good. Okay, let's get you your crisis report. Elon Musk says Mr. Jeffstein and his victims were turned into traffickers themselves after they turned 18 by making them commit these crimes. He ensured their silence more than any NDA could. They should be offered amnesty in order to testify. I agree. I got to be honest with you. I think that's a pretty astute statement. So, that was going on. It's very common. And if they've got things to tell, let's absolve them and turn them into, state's witness. Sad thing is no one's going to go to jail. Colombian President Gustavo Petro says he survived an attempt on his life. U.S. is sending 200 troops to Nigeria to train the country's military to fight Islamist militants weeks after Trump accused the West African government of failing to protect Christians from terrorist attacks on American military officials, said Tuesday. Trump considering sending a second aircraft carrier strike group to prepare for military action if Iran talks fail. Lisa Murkowski, everybody's favorite rhino, becomes the first Republican senator to reject passing the SAVE Act, which would require proof of citizenship to vote nationwide. But we can't have that now, can we? Go look up the way she got into office, by the way. It's a very interesting story. You might find it interesting. Just go look at how she got into office some whatever years ago it was. A 13-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder after launching a stabbing attack at Kingsbury High School, northwest London, injuring 2 students, 12 and 13. Attacker is not a student at the school, and witness reportedly heard him saying something about a snack bar during the rampage. Moderna says FDA has refused to review its application for an experimental Myrna flu shot. 10 people dead, 25 injured after a mass school shooting in Tumbler Ridge, Canada. Police have identified the shooter, but won't release details at the time because of, quote, privacy reasons. I'd say we just ban all guns, because that'll do it. And death and murder. Ban murder. Colombian President Gustavo Petro narrowly survived an attempt. Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in Washington, D.C. to meet with Trump over plans to take out Iran. Palantir co-founder Joe Lonsdale says ICE needs to ramp up enforcement after Minneapolis and make more arrests regardless of what anyone thinks. Pima County Sheriff Department, assisted by the FBI, has taken a person into custody for questioning in connection with the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. Venezuela is now under President Delcy Rodriguez and the reformist wing of PSUV and will begin exporting oil to the state of Israel. The first shipment of Venezuelan crude has just left for the Bazan Group, Israel's largest refinery. Generally, Israel doesn't advertise where it gets its crude oil from, and tankers have sometimes disappeared from digital tracking systems once they near the country's ports. Cargo arrives, it would mark the first shipment of its kind since mid-2020, when they took about 470,000 barrels, according to Kepler data. Bazan, also known as Oil Refineries Limited, declined to comment. Israel's energy ministry declined to comment on where the country gets its crude from. They can do whatever they want. They're perfect. CBO projecting U.S. to see natural decline by 2030 as deaths probably be around 3.3 million that year and are expected roughly a 300,000 annual decline in births from 2025 to 2030. Considering births have averaged 3.6 million since 2020, not entirely convinced of such a drop. Why? Because the number of U.S. mothers in their 30s will grow massively throughout the 2030s as gigantic 2000 to 2009 cohort, largest cohort since the 1950s to 60s, in America, which saw 4 million plus births every year, starts hitting age 30. Think that it's an even bet total. Births can stabilize up 3.4 million. U.S. labor U.S. labor force participation rate projected to drop from 63% in 2025 to 58% by 2030 as boomers exit the workforce. Structural decline is driven entirely by demographics, and employers will need to hire 240,000 workers per month for the next 5 years just to replace retirees. Russia is restricting access to Telegram in an attempt to force its citizens switch to a state-controlled app built for surveillance and political censorship. 8 years ago, Iran tried the same strategy and failed. It banned Telegram on the made-up pretext trying to force people onto a state-run alternative. Despite the ban, most Iranians still use Telegram by bypassing it and prefer to use surveilled apps, or prefer to not to use the surveilled apps. Restricting citizens' freedom is never the right answer. Telegram stands for freedom in speech and privacy, and no matter the pressure. Good. Vice President J.D. Vance briefly posted on X from his visit to Armenia using the term Armenian G-side, but the post was quickly deleted. It was later replaced with a staff repost that referenced the memorial visit without using the G-side word. Trump administration does not formally recognize the Armenian G-side, unlike the administration of Joe Biden. China intensifies support for Iran and could change the game after sending a Type 055 destroyer and Type 052 to the Sea of Oman region to escort the Ocean No. 1 intelligence ship. Chinese are stepping up intelligence support to Iran. The Ocean No. 1 is likely monitoring all movements of U.S. Navy ships and submarines and passing the information to Iran. But in an increasingly bold move, the Chinese are photographing U.S. bases and making the photos public, and this time they photographed a newly installed THAAD battery at the Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan and posted the images with location data online. Long post from going on there, but it goes basically Chinese support obviously goes beyond radars, which they know were easy targets last June. Those flights from China to Iran in the last 2 months, sometimes multiple times a day, didn't have the capacity to carry anti-aircraft batteries, but they certainly have the capacity to carry a lot of integration equipment, including for ground Beidou stations. Iran is a significant source for China's oil imports, and Israel, topping the Islamic Republic of Iran, may cut off China's access to those oil resources. This war isn't just about Israel defeating the geopolitical rival in the Middle East. It's also a way for Washington, D.C. to gain leverage over the PRC and dissuade it from changing the status quo in East Asia, as America lost the sea lift capabilities that would allow it to conduct large-scale warfare in the region. Inflation. Adjusted average starting salary for college graduates is down 8% year over year to $54,500, lowest in at least 6 years. Marks the fourth consecutive annual decline. Salaries have plummeted 24% in real terms since the $71,000 peak seen in 2021. Comes as graduates are being pushed into lower paying roles that often have little to do with their degree. Percentage of recent graduates whose first job aligns with their field of study has fallen from 26% for the 2022 cohort to 20% for the 2025 cohort. Young Americans are unable to find jobs. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has landed in D.C. Surveys suggest that about 18 million people in the U.S. have used weed almost daily for about 5 times a week. In recent years, that was up from around 6 million in 2012, less than 1 million in 1992. More Americans now use marijuana daily than alcohol. U.S. manufacturing sector is in a recession. Numbers are showing, according to one of my favorite places, the Kobayashi letter. Manufacturing sector shed 8,000 jobs in January, according to the ADP Private Employment Report. This marks the 32nd consecutive monthly decline, longest streak since data began in 2010. 2024 and 2025 manufacturing employment fell 154,000 to 177,000 respectively. Since the 2022 peak, 403,000 jobs have been lost, bringing total manufacturing employment down to 12.483 million, lowest since November 2021. Sector has now lost half the number of jobs wiped out during the 2020 Ronademic. U.S. manufacturing sector is in a recession. Credit card stress is surging. 12.7% of credit card loans are now 90-plus days delinquent, second highest level ever, surpassed only during the aftermath of the global financial crisis. Ahead of the meeting between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump, Israel, as sources have told CNN, Prime Minister Netanyahu is expected to present Trump with the new intelligence related to Iran's military capabilities. An Israeli source said that the assessments are that without taking action, Iran could have 1,800 to 2,000 ballistic missiles within weeks or months. Weeks or months. Always weeks or months. Prime Minister Netanyahu is also expected to raise the need for military freedom of action in Iran as part of any possible agreement. It's coming, folks. Americans are extremely bullish on the stock market. 50% of Americans now expect the stock market to rise over the next 6 months, second highest reading since 2020, according to a January Gallup poll. This is above the long-term average of 45% seen from 2006-2019. China's consumer confidence has completely collapsed. China's consumer confidence index is down to 90 points, near the lowest level on record. Index plunged 40 points between 2021 and 2022, has remained at extremely pessimistic levels over the last 4 years. Robinhood stock, or HOOD, falls nearly 10% after posting lower than expected Q4 2025 revenue. And gold inventories at the Shanghai Futures Exchange vaults are skyrocketing. Deliverable gold in the Shanghai Futures Exchange, measured by warehouse warrants, is up to a record 104 tons. Warehouse warrants represent physical gold stored in an approved exchange. Vaults that can be, of course, tapped into and gone from there. But that is your crisis report for February 10th, 2026. So, there you are. How are we doing? Shalom. Good to see you all here. Scrappy, friends. What else we got? Bad Bobber, Lieutenant Grover. Consider becoming a member, of course. These fine people some of them are members. But yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly. So we'll just have to see where it all goes. But I don't even know why I called this moving on. Oh man, because we're not moving on from anything. I think it should be called moving in. Everything's moving in on us. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. We're all side hustling. We're all doing our best. But yeah, it's out there. It's out there. We're having a year. But at least we're getting kissed while it's all this. Yes. Well, peace and prayers to everyone else. Watch your six. Stay calm. Stay armed. Thank you very much, Mr. Blue Cord Devil. I agree. So, yeah. I guess they're blocking the sun in Ohio. Cool. We're moving on up. Oh, friends, just keep prepping, okay? We're brought to you by Augusta Precious Metals. Check them out. Link in the description. Other links as well. Consider becoming a member. Consider subscribe to our locals, Truth Social, Gab Minds, Twitter, X, and then, of course, Substack, where you get a full transcript of all this right here. God bless you all, and we will see you on the next one.